Sure. So my name is Shelby Harrington. I am an adjunct instructor in the marketing department, and then my primary role on campus is actually as an international student advisor. Last semester, the course that I taught in the marketing department used social media to examine gender issues in marketing. So I did quite a bit of research and quite a bit of discussion with our students about social media topics. And we used quite a bit of these ideas in our class and sort of developed how they might be used in a marketing context. And I think some of those concepts roll over a little bit into how we can use them as instructors to engage our students. Here we go. So in addition to my experiences, I actually did a little bit of research in preparation for this presentation to see what other people are doing, basically, to see what is out there across the internet. And a couple of concepts that were repeated across a lot of articles is that our students are already using social media tools, all right? They use them for their personal engagement. They use them for interpersonal communication quite a bit, and they use them very publicly, all right? There are some platforms that are more private than others. Some are quite public, and then some can be changed in order to become more private. But as we're seeing with news items or things that are widely publicized, where someone tweeted something and got fired, or somebody inappropriately commented on a photo on someone's Facebook page and then is in trouble now, our students are using these platforms, and they're using them in a very informal environment. And as instructors, we have a great opportunity to teach them how to use these forums in a way that will help them leave a more positive internet footprint, or cyber footprint, I think is what it's called, as they grow and as these platforms become more public, more open, and more used across different areas and different professions. So what we can do is we can actually incorporate them into our class curriculum in order to teach them how to use them maturely, responsibly, and in an academic or professional manner. Some teachers actually, I've noticed that a lot of high school and junior high teachers are incorporating social media to engage their students more quickly and more consistently. And some of them are actually reporting that they're seeing students be more engaged in non-credit conversations. So even when they're not earning points for participating, they're still participating in discussions because they're holding the conversations in these sort of informal environments that they're very used to and that they're using already. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about today are some of the general uses for social media in our classrooms. Then I'll cover a few actually different platforms, a few statistics, but then also give some suggestions about how I've either used them or how I've seen them used in other academic environments, and then leave you all with a couple of notes to consider if you are thinking about bringing this into your curriculum and your lectures. So general considerations of social media, they offer this open forum for students to participate in that enables them to submit their own work and to receive feedback from you in sort of a non-public environment. The mediation between the student and the criticism through this internet forum actually can reduce that stress level when they're putting their work out there. Because you can control the privacy settings, they can receive your feedback or the feedback from their peers actually in either a more private space or a less private space. That's okay. It's online. Certain forums, certain social media platforms. Let me start over. Media platforms. At times, you can actually set the privacy settings so that they only include people you invite into it. So it's not open to the World Wide Web. It's really just open to the members of your class, or maybe just between you and the student. But it's also not necessarily face-to-face. It's through some sort of mediated form. Did that answer your question? Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So they can receive feedback from us and from their peers. They also can receive feedback from the public. All right. So if that is sort of a course requirement where they need to receive feedback in a public forum, the internet gives you access to a wider variety of perspectives than if they were to go to downtown Santa Barbara and showcase their work, for example. Social media platforms also offer a wide degree of collaboration. You can create a space for collaborative work where they all are contributing to something that is then developing and opening online. Sort of the way these the Google Drive forums, everyone can be editing a document simultaneously. The same thing can happen in social media platforms. And you, again, can set privacy settings to be more public or more private. Some people have created a class blog where a teacher will post a particular topic each week, and the students have to contribute a certain response to it. And you get to set the tone for how academic or how personal or how opinionated that should be. Tumblr is a really popular one with our 18 to 25-year-old demographic because it is not just words. It also enables you to express or write your blog through pictures, videos, sound bites, links. So it's a little bit more a wide variety of expression. Collaboration on class projects. So some of these media platforms enable us to create group work where they can communicate with each other on group projects so that they don't have to be in the same classroom. For example, we have students that have schedules that conflict with their family time, with their work time, with other obligations outside of the classroom. So asking students to work on a group project may be a little more feasible if they're able to collaborate across a social media platform. And then also it's a great way to post resources. If students find additional resources that surpass what you've presented them with, they can then collaborate with their peers and share those resources through different platforms. Networking, it allows them to create what's called a PLN, a personal learning network, whether that is with classmates or with people who are just interested in the topic that they're exploring. They then are reaching out beyond our classroom setting to interact with people who just share a common interest. Right? If they're investigating a topic they've never heard before and they find some community online that is very enthusiastic about it, they're able to create a more personal network. And again, it creates a little bit of a mediated space for their preferred types of expression. Some people, for example, are ready and willing to raise their hand immediately when you ask a classroom question. Some people need a little bit of time to reflect on it and think about what they want to say. And sometimes in our classrooms, those conversations can move really quickly. And those students who are more reflective may miss out on their opportunity to express their opinion. This sort of mediates that time frame so that students can continue commenting and sort of reflecting on the information and not immediately needing to voice an opinion. It also allows us, yes?
Which of those is synchronous and which is asynchronous?
Which platforms?
Yeah, and how would you use them?
Well, synchronous platforms are going to be, for example, let's see, Google Plus can be a synchronous platform. The Google Drive, of course, can also be synchronous. I would say Facebook is almost synchronous. Twitter, a lot of the social media platforms are they kind of fulfill both roles because someone can go back and review the information later, or you can say from this hour to this hour, or during this event, everyone is going to be interacting in addition to participating in the event, interacting on this platform as well.
Let me rephrase. So which ones would you recommend for which purpose? Which are best for synchronous, which are best for asynchronous?
Can we table that question for a minute? I'm going to go through the platforms and then let's revisit it. Yeah. Social media allows us to extend beyond our classroom. So you're able to visually connect with topics and ideas that students can be applying your information to outside of the classroom. A couple of ways they do that through Instagram and Vine. And I'll describe Instagram a little more closely. Instagram is taking pictures and organizing them according to categories. Vine does a similar, performs a similar function using videos. So they're able to record little clips that maybe apply to some of your lecture material. They can bring in the diversity of their personal lives, all right, by sharing their worldview through their participation in your online discussions. You can incorporate international connections, or even, you know, cross-national. You can have a guest lecturer from New York all of a sudden participating in your class, and have students interacting with that information that they're providing from across the world, actually. And then finally, you can incorporate podcasts or hangouts. Google calls them hangouts, where everyone can be in the same sort of virtual space at once. But podcasts record sort of what we're doing today and replay information later on. I actually read a really interesting article about the flipped classroom. I think you're doing a presentation on that in the future, where a high school instructor utilizes a lot of social media platforms in order to create a flipped classroom, where most of the information, like the lecture material, is happening outside of the classroom, and then the actual activities are happening inside the classroom. And then finally, it affects the accessibility between students and teachers. You can create office hours, virtual office hours, where you can actually speak to a student through a camera, or, you know, through chat functions in some of these spaces. Post documents, you can have group chats where numbers of students might have the same questions. You can post your podcast or your videos so that they're viewable later, all right, so that students can go back and review them at a later time. And then also, again, that reflective period. I know I've always been the kind of student that is ready to raise her hand right away. And I've, over time, learned that many people are actually very reflective and start to really get the material and really feel like they can contribute to a discussion after they've been given a little bit of time. So it really enables those students to ask their follow-up questions or to contribute to a conversation over a little bit of a time period. So we're going to go into a couple of the specific platforms that are used. First, videos. We have YouTube and Vimeo. YouTube, I believe, is more supported by SBCC. Is that correct? Would you say? I would say so. I've noticed in my experience that a lot of the students use Vimeo if they are more adept at film, and they are more editors, film editors. It's a little bit of a higher level, I think. So what can you do with YouTube and Vimeo? You can host your own videos, host videos that are created by your students, or also upload videos from more professional sources. And you can actually create what's called a channel, so that you can organize your channel to have specific videos in it that students can then go and watch based on whatever your assignment is. Your YouTube videos can be inserted into Moodle shells as well, if you want them to appear in the actual Moodle shell, or if you want to provide a link. I'm sure the FRC can help you with that if that's something you want to do. A couple of drawbacks I hear, especially in the high school and junior high community, the content is sometimes questionable. They're not always academic or professional movies. And when you play one YouTube clip, they provide suggestions for other video clips that might be related. Some of those suggestions are not always appropriate for what you're looking for. So you do have to be aware that these sorts of patterns might emerge when you're using YouTube. There is one website called TeacherTube. I think it's primarily used for K through 12. But they might have some information that might be useful to a certain level of our topics. A couple of suggestions of how you can use this type of content. You can use examples of videos for your course content. All right, have students go to YouTube and watch a particular video that you've assigned or that you see. Add, a little audio-visual element to your lectures or to your assignments. You can create a channel for your class, as I said, or you can require students to create a channel according to a particular topic that is assigned. Maybe they need to gather resources and provide examples of something that you're covering in class. You can require that as an assignment for them to create their own channel for other students to then go and view their perspectives on what the material is covering. You can also present remotely. You can ask students to create and upload their own personal presentations or their own videos and have them contribute to a class channel where all of their presentations are then available for their peers to review. So if you need to have somebody present remotely, this is also relevant for having guest speakers or for yourself if you want to post your lectures for people to access at a later time.
Shelby?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the channel? I'm sorry if I missed it. I was trying to take a note too. What? Okay. Yeah. How do you create a channel?
So in your account, in your YouTube account that you can create, you can organize a channel according to your content. So let's say, for example, I'm teaching gender issues in marketing, and I want to compile a series of videos for students to watch that are related to that topic. I can create a channel that I then name Gender Issues in Marketing, and I can organize my videos to be part of that channel so that they can search for the channel and watch all the videos rather than having to find the individual links. It sort of, I think that it helps students frame the information in a context that you expect them to already know, maybe, by being able to name your channel a certain, by topic, for example, or whatever the case is. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. I wasn't, I didn't realize it was primarily for YouTube. So does Vimeo do that as well? Or?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe they serve primarily the same function. I think it's a preference for your quality and sort of how you want to organize your videos.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Facebook. How many people have Facebook in this room? Pew Research Center did a study on social media platforms and found that 84% of people who are aged 18 to 29 have Facebook accounts that they're using. 84%. This is by far the most used platform. I will share with you a rumor that I heard. I don't have any data to back it up, but I did hear that there is a general flight of teenagers and early 20s from Facebook. They don't update Facebook as much with personal information because all of their parents are on Facebook now, and they're not interested in sharing everything they're doing with their parents. The way Facebook works. Mute. The way Facebook works is basically members are able to create their own online communities. They can join groups that are created by other members. They can like pages. So a company, for example, can create a page that provides information about their product or their service, and someone can like that page and receive updates from them. They can join events, so people can host events or online events, and people can join them and receive reminders or updates or pictures. And people also add friends. So you add people who you know, or maybe some people add people they don't know, into your network who receive your updates as you post them, and also who update you on whatever they're up to. A couple ideas. If I move too fast through these platforms, please stop me and ask a question. These are just general explanations. A couple of ideas that I came across or that I've used in my classes. People create Facebook groups for each of their classes, and then actually you can have each section sign up for the same group and start creating intersection conversations. So maybe you have a great conversation in your 8 a.m. section, and then your 10 a.m. section has a okay conversation, brings up different points. Have them discuss that through a group so that they're gaining the information from other conversations that you've been seeing with your students in different classes. Alternatively, you can create a group for each section if you want to keep them separate. You can establish a page for your department or program in order to promote your departmental activities or opportunities to your students. I don't know how many departments have those at SBCC. I know that the global marketing certificate page we have in the marketing department, and we're able to access our alumni and then also recruit or advertise our program through that Facebook page as well. You can instruct students who are working on group projects to create their own Facebook group just for that project, And if they add you in, you can give them ongoing feedback as to how are they doing. I actually have students that already do this. So I suspect that a lot of students are already creating their own sort of virtual communities for their group projects that they can work on. And then finally, you can post reminders about upcoming deadlines and opportunities that will then invade their personal feeds, all right? So when they're checking their Facebook updates for personal information, your information is also going to appear in their updates. Twitter and Instagram. 31% of the age group, the 18 to 29 age group, are tweeting, and 37% are posting via Insta. Insta is the cool way to say it. Instagram is the long way to say it. Essentially, they perform similar functions in different ways. Both of them are enabling people to communicate an idea or a thought or link to an article or link to another online site. Twitter does it through words, through 140 characters or less. Instagram does it through pictures. Both of them are organized using two particular symbols in order to help us organize information. The hashtag is used to categorize thoughts and pictures along themes. Okay, so if you've seen, a lot of people are using these now. Hashtag SBCC #1, right? That would be something where everyone who has a comment about how great their experience at SBCC is can tweet it and then put hashtag SBCC #1, and you can actually search for that particular hashtag and find out every single person who's made that comment, okay, or who's made some sort of comment. You can actually hold conversations between people by using the @ symbol. So you put the @ symbol and then somebody's name, their Twitter handle actually is what it's called, their Twitter handle. And that allows them to directly converse with each other. So I can say @Kenley, and he will receive information that I've directly tweeted to him or Instagrammed him, I guess, with something that I want him to hear. And then he can respond to me by saying @Shelby with his response. Okay. There's also something called retweeting, where if you particularly agree with or like somebody's comment, you can retweet it. And the more it gets retweeted by people, the higher it appears, or the more frequently it appears in people's Twitter feeds. So the more popular the comment or idea becomes in the Twitter sphere. So as far as classroom activities go, you can trend classroom topics using the hashtag. You can initiate discussions using the @sign, all right? And then also, a couple of schools have posted some interesting projects where students actually analyze commentary using the hashtag and then topic. So and I'll explain that in just a second. I found a great website that I added into this presentation, and that's also copied in the Google Drive doc. It's just really interesting, and it is about, it's a Pew Research study again, and it categorizes 6 types of conversations and sort of indicates where those conversations tend to arise on Twitter. So political conversations tend to have 2 polarized groups that are tweeting about them. Global events tend to have small communities of groups tweeting similar sort of information. So it's a really interesting article. If you're thinking about using Twitter in your classroom, I would definitely recommend that you look at this article. So a few ways to use Twitter in your classroom. You can actually link to articles. Most relevant publications, most popular publications, including ones that we would want to use in our classrooms, do have Twitter accounts that link to their websites. So you can actually link directly to articles and tweet your class and say, hey, check out this article I just found. In fact, this demographic, 45% of these people in this demographic access their news through Twitter, actually, which is the highest percentage of all the social media platforms. 39% access it through YouTube and 34% through Facebook. So Twitter is actually where a lot of our students are finding their news. You can use it as a research tool and sort of examine primary versus secondary sources. discuss academic rigor, discuss your expectations as far as what you expect students to use for their academic projects. But by using that hashtag and finding sort of a trending topic, students can actually research what people are saying and what articles people are posting about a particular topic, such as a current event. You can tweet questions. I have this great idea that maybe we can tweet extra credit questions, and if they catch the question and retweet the answer, then they can get an extra credit point, and you can go back and later check. I haven't implemented it at all, and I don't know if that's actually something that would work, but students can also tweet questions to you. So it's sort of a conversational topic. I've also experienced a lot of people, not necessarily students, who are tweeting celebrities, all right, whether they're politically prevalent people or they're music celebrities or they're artists or they're athletes. You can actually tweet them directly, and once in a while they'll tweet you back and they'll answer your questions. So it's a really good way to have sort of a conversation. So again, websites also use Twitter. There's a project that a teacher in Wisconsin was doing that I read about, where he uses the KQED website. They have sort of a blog where they update common questions or topics of the day. And he actually assigns his students on a weekly basis a project where they need to find out what that trending tag is, that hashtag, and then whatever the topic is, and they need to respond to it, all right? And they need to respond to what this particular website is asking for that day. And they've actually had students who have been published in articles because they were interacting with a topic that is part of a local news source. Another idea that I've read about is to incorporate Twitter into guest lectures or into films, all right? The NYU investigative journalism class, I read this great article, they actually had an activity where they had guest speakers who are investigative journalists come to sort of a series of lectures. And the students were required to live tweet their questions and their comments and their opinions in relation to what the speakers were saying. The assignment was actually to go back later and check the trend, right? They all use the same hashtag. Check the trend and then write a summary and analyze the audience reaction to these guest speakers. So you can actually incorporate a whole writing assignment that sort of reviews analytical thinking, requires some sort of written reaction, some critical thinking in response to field trips or guest speakers or films that they need to watch. And then finally, again, if you have a particular guest lecturer or you have somebody that you know that is interested in participating in this, students can interview those guests by tweeting to them, maybe over a specific period of time, and then that person can tweet back to them the answers. And you can incorporate that into an assignment where the students then analyze the interview or incorporate it into some other sort of topic. Instagram, again, is much more visual. You're using photographs. You can showcase student work here. Classmates can comment on it, or maybe the public even can comment. You can document out-of-class excursions, all right? I remember when I was at UCSB, our instructor required us to go by ourselves on our own to visit a Buddhist temple in town, and how many of the students did it? We don't know. You know, some students went and some students didn't. You can actually require them to document their experience, right? So you require them to go to an art gallery, you require them to go to an event, for example. You can have them document it and create a hashtag, field trip SBCC, for example, or hashtag class name, and then they can organize their experiences and present their perspective of what was important at that event or that field trip. And then finally, visualizing class topics. You can link them to the lecture material. Have students find examples of a particular thought or an idea. I've read about math teachers actually using this, where they require, you know, high school students or junior high students to take pictures of examples of symmetry or an example of a particular angle and post them to Instagram So the students are engaging the material outside of the classroom through a particular platform that they already probably use. Pinterest. Pinterest, I don't know that this is necessarily considered an academic platform, but I do believe that it is possible to utilize it for class space. Pinterest is basically a forum where you can organize links to different websites and different ideas. You can upload your own projects or your own ideas to Pinterest and organize them according to boards. So it's kind of like you're pinning it to a particular bulletin board. You can create one for your class or for a special topic and have other students add to it or upload to yourself. You can compile an online course bibliography, all right? So if there's certain books or certain articles you want students to incorporate into their writing, you can create a Pinterest board for that. A show and tell link, so students can actually share their own work if you like, if you have a visual project that you're working with students on. So that they can share with their peers and then also with other people who might be with them on Pinterest. Google Plus is actually directly connected to your Pipeline account. So this is a great way to incorporate a social media platform into Pipeline, which is a school-supported platform, basically. So Google Plus has a lot of similarities to Facebook. You're creating an online community. However, you're organizing your friends into circles instead of groups. So you can have a Marketing 215 circle, and it's all the people in the Marketing 215 class. You can have a PD 100 circle, and it can either be per section or it can be per class, particular class, PD 100, for example. They can overlap, so you can have your circles participate in each other's work or each other's comments and view each other's information. Or it can be selectively shared so that it's private to just one particular circle. Video chat is available for up to 10 users at a time. So you can have a group of up to 10 people chatting with each other if they have access to a video camera, a web camera. And you can create hangouts, all right? I know one particular teacher in the marketing department who creates a Google Hangout for her office hours. And she says, I will have my Google Hangout. I'll be there from, this hour to this hour. Stop by virtually if you have a question about the material. And that seems to be working for her, actually. She's an adjunct, and so she lives in Orange County and commutes up here a couple days a week. And so the Google Hangout has been really functioning well for her office hours on days when she's not here on campus. So a couple of ways to utilize it. Create a page for your class. Again, create a circle for your class. Using Google Hangout for office hours. You can hold guest lectures, actually, as well in Google Plus, where someone who is not in town, who's out of the area, can create a presentation and present it through Google Plus, through your Hangouts, for example. And then again, posting reminders, questions, clarifying information for students, the same way that you might in Facebook, where it sort of invades their feed. Academic information comes through their personal information. Quora is a Q&A site. So Q&A sites are another form of social media that enable people to pose questions, enable other users to provide answers, and then also the third function, they allow people to rate the answers. So to say, this is a great answer, thumbs up, or to say, this is a terrible answer, thumbs down, I disagree with this. It can provide an interesting context to out-of-class activities. Students can perhaps begin a discussion topic, sort of the way our Moodle discussion forums work. They can begin a discussion topic, maybe ask a question, maybe respond to a question you've posed, and then their peers can actually rate their responses to determine if they agree with it, or maybe if they support it, or if they think, yes, this is a valid response to this particular topic.
Are there only two options?
I believe so. I believe it's a thumbs up or thumbs down on this one. If you Google Q&A sites, there are other options. Quora is not the only one. It is the one that came up when I had the conversation with my students. So it's the one I'm familiar with. I think so, yeah. Another way, I went to the rubric workshop yesterday in the FRC, and Mark Ferrer and I were having a conversation about building a rubric using student feedback. So he was suggesting you provide 3 examples of student work and you ask them to determine what is good about this and what is bad. So you're creating a rubric through class participation. You can do that through Quora by maybe posting a sentence and asking the students to rate it, to say, was this a good one? Was this a bad one? Why? And then they're participating in creating the standard of excellence for your class. A couple of points to consider. Do you have any questions first about any of the platforms? Yes.
What about Zoom? Does City College have licenses for Zoom, which I think is far superior than Google Plus?
Okay, I don't know the answer to that question.
You can use Zoom if you want to have it for longer. The basic account is free, so you can just sign up. You can just sign in with your pipeline account. And if you're going to need it for longer than the 15-minute window, how long is it for? 40 minutes? If you need it longer than 40 minutes, then you can contact the help desk, and I think they can turn it on for anyone. We're using it right now.
Okay, great.
That's what this is. We're using this.
Mm-hmm. And that's good feedback that Google Plus maybe isn't quite as functional.
I've tried it several times. And
Yeah.
I'm always talking.
Got it. Good to know.
I'm sorry, Shelby, it was hard for us to hear the question. I heard a lot of the response. It was about Google Plus, you said?
Well, she asked if Zoom was available to instructors at SBCC, and the response was that yes, the free version provides a space for 40 minutes, up to 40 minutes. If you want to have a longer meeting than that, then you would need to pay for it.
No, you don't have to pay for it.
Oh, sorry, just kidding.
No. You can start using it anytime. Just when you get to the Zoom page, just sign in with your pipeline account.
Mm-hmm.
Choose the login with Google choice. Login with Google, and use it. And you get with that account, you get a 40-minute. You can have a single 40 minutes. You can have as many single 40-minute sessions as you want. But if you need, like this meeting's 2 hours long, so that free version would work. So if you have a need for longer sessions than 40 minutes. Then contact the help desk.
Oh, great. So the help desk can actually provide longer sessions.
I don't know how many they are, but what they'll do is, if it's a faculty member that's going to be teaching on regularly, they'll give you an account to utilize. And I think they're just continuing to add accounts as the need goes.
It's a new platform for the college.
Yeah, I'm thinking about offering online courses, and that would be great.
Well, it's just very light. It's fast. You know, the download is very easy.
Mm-hmm.
CCC Confer, when you use that compared to Zoom, CCC Confer feels like a 1960s Volkswagen comparison.
But the problem we run into using Zoom is when the person on the other end tries to demonstrate, it's problematic. Sometimes it skips in and out.
Which is what we're doing right now. So Shelby is the host of this session today is Janet. And so right now Shelby is presenting from here through Janet's class.
Right.
I don't know how it looks for everyone else online. It looks great here in person.
And the Prezi is available online. You can access it at any time at prezi.com. You just type in my email address, harringtons@sbcc.edu, and it should give you access to all of my Prezis. I don't pay extra for the private account. These are all public. So I wanted to wrap up with a couple of points to consider if you're thinking about incorporating some of these outlets into your curriculum. The first is to be sensitive to accessibility. Some students don't have smartphones. Some students don't have reliable internet connections. Some students are not walking around with a camera that also is a phone, that's also the internet, so we have to be sensitive to accessibility. You can actually, I've found what works is inviting students to work in a group or a pair, because undoubtedly at least half of your class will have access to this. That could be wrong for certain classes, I don't know, but allowing them to be a little flexible in your requirements as far as who can work together and how long the assignment takes to be completed. Rather than saying you have to post this by tomorrow, maybe give them a few days to post. Test the internet access, okay? I have tried to use I've tried to do this in the BC building where I've had students take out their phones or take out their computers and participate online. And unfortunately, when they all got together and started running their devices at the same time, none of them could access the internet. So I believe that it slows the internet down. And as great as the internet connection is on campus, it can be impacted.
Because there's a limitation on the number of simultaneous users in a classroom per connection. So I think it's like 40. So when the president wanted to do something in the sports pavilion, there were 1,000 people. We said, I don't think so.
Right.
So that's the problem. And
so there are
knows
limits
about it. They're working on a plan, I'm sure, to increase it. They just have to drain the library's budget or somebody's money and pay for it.
Yeah. So test it out beforehand before you ask them all to participate in something online. Test out the internet connection. Also, and this goes to the Google Plus question or the Zoom versus Google Plus, I would recommend that you select a specific platform. If it's an assignment that you're having them do, say, do this on Twitter, not choose Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. If you are running your class through a particular, using social media, you want to select a particular platform that you're asking them to participate in. Not everyone wants to have an account with every social media site. And then also, a secondary aspect of this is I would suggest you kind of find out where your students are. If none of them are on Zoom and all of them are on Facebook, you might want to be a little flexible and see if the same types of activities can be done on the platform that they're on. Because again, what we're teaching them is sort of these soft skills of how to interact formally in an environment where they already are feeling that it's informal, okay? That's sort of one of those undercover side things that people learn. Which brings me to my last point. Yeah?
I would just comment that the Google Plus, the Plus for us, and YouTube versus video, is both of those are pipeline services. So the students already have an account; they can access it through their pipeline. They don't have to sign up for anything. They have to, with Google Plus, they have to agree to the terms of the Google. It is a separate agreement than their email. So it's an add-on thing, but they don't have to create an account to use it.
Right.
It's the same with YouTube. YouTube comments are now Google Plus comments, so they're connected.
Yeah. My final moment that I would, or my final thought that I would leave you with is to find teachable moments if you're choosing to do this. I have found that web-mediated communication really reduces student inhibitions. This can be really positive. Students who are not willing to speak up in class are somehow magically able to provide some real thought-provoking contributions to online discussions. Maybe if they need longer times to speak, maybe if they want to think about the material before they participate. So there can be some real positive aspects of that. There can be some negative as well. That reduction in inhibitions and this informal environment also, I found, leads to some sort of lax communication styles. In my online class, I've noticed this as well. Students don't think they need to use punctuation or capitals. They can use poor grammar. I've had students drop in the F-bomb in class discussions because they're online. They think that it's somehow less formal. So setting some sort of standard and reminding students and teaching them that this is still reflective of who they are, even though you can't see them face to face, that these social media platforms are going to follow them throughout their lives. And that it is important to use proper communication styles, especially if you are interacting in an academic or a professional way. Yes?
Do you have a statement that you always incorporate in your syllabi?
Yes, I actually, in my syllabus, I have 4 statements that specifically talk about respect in the classroom environment, proper communication styles, and personal responsibility. And then another one is not related. It's about resources, accessing the resources that you need.
I was thinking particularly about electronic communication.
Absolutely. Because again, we are functioning in their informal environments, all right? We're trying to bring school into their house, basically, into their phones. And because these platforms are becoming more public, people are citing Twitter all the time in news articles now. all right? This is becoming a sort of primary source of information, right? And so if you are tweeting things that maybe you look back later and reflect on it and think, oh, that wasn't what I meant to say, that has already been imprinted into the internet. So this actually can really help students, I think, to refine their communication styles in the social media world. Yes?
Could you take a moment and talk about any experiences you've had with students' reluctance to use social media that you set up, not their own, but you set up? My experience with students is they really want a separation of church and state. They don't want you're invading their social space, because that's the classroom, that's their personal life. And so
that's absolutely true. One of the things that I've done that's worked well is I've talked about privacy settings. I've talked about my own comfort with sharing information and how I have set privacy settings on my own social networks, so that they see that I understand that, and I don't want them in my social circle necessarily either. However, I do believe that the platforms that are not necessarily high on privacy levels, that are very public, are places where these students are needing to learn anyway. They need to learn that their conversations and their comments are public. And this is not something that we teach in a particular class. There's no class that I know of on campus that teaches how to write an appropriate tweet, or how to, I don't know, create a great comment on YouTube. So I do have a conversation with my students about privacy, and again, I incorporate respect, and I incorporate personal responsibility, that these students are responsible for the comments they're making in an academic environment. And when they are being social, if they can set those privacy settings so that they're separate, their church and state is separate, so to speak, then that will benefit them in the long run, actually, because they can have a private sphere as well as a public sphere. Some students still don't want to do it.
And that's the other plus to using the pipeline services, because they already have the account.
That's right.
So, the argument for not creating a social network account is not grounded, because they have one that's associated with their school account. They can use it just for school. They don't have to tell anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of. It may not be the most ideal platform, but it is, at least it's something that they already have an account with.
Right. Yes.
But not all students have used it already. So how much time, where would students go to get training?
On doing what?
Google
How to use, to post a YouTube video, or how to use Google Plus, or any of the proposed platforms, media. How much time do you spend training with students? What do you tell them?
I ask how many of them need help. To be honest, I don't set aside a specific amount of time. When I'm reviewing my syllabus, I usually set a good hour aside of my first class to review my syllabus, and really respond to questions and really set my expectations and to talk about our classroom environment. So that's the point where I would talk about the expectations of setting up these particular accounts. I encourage students to come and talk to me in person if they don't know how to do it. So I spend probably more time outside of the classroom setting up helping students individually, rather than spending a whole class hour, because a lot of the students will already know how to do it. It's very intuitive, actually, for that younger generation, I think, because they've grown up with computers being an integral part of their lives. It's very intuitive how these are working. With our students who are not in the 18 to 29 demographic, it's very important to sort of be there for them and to support them in saying, you know what, we can learn it together. We can figure it out together. This is just for your class. I'm not going to make you spend the rest of your life updating your Facebook account or your Twitter. You can delete it later.
We get a lot of those questions in the library too, and we have technology tutors who help with them.
Oh, that's good to know.
I've also noticed very many times a student will have a lot of trouble with, let's say they're doing something with YouTube, and they'll come and ask for help. And then they'll sort of raise their hands, and by the time you get over to them, the student next to them has already shown them how to do it. So like they'll help each other in that setting too.
I think they have more trouble using Moodle than they do.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, because these are companies that want the users to be able to use their platform, right? So they try to make it easy and they try to make that information accessible. This might be another plug for having people work in pairs initially or groups initially, and then maybe assigning an individual assignment later in the semester.
It seems that they can use the product, they just don't understand the privacy implications.
Yeah.
They don't, like even today, I have friends that post things on Facebook and they just have no clue that they just shared that with anybody in the world because they haven't adjusted their privacy settings and they don't understand how that function works. And so we've done workshops in the library on this, probably because it can't be spoken to enough for students, faculty, and staff, grandparents, everybody just doesn't quite, it's not something that's conscious. I think it's kind of assume they're just sharing with their friends when it's really not.
Okay. Any other questions? So again, the Prezi is available, prezi.com. You can look up my email address. Oh, people online, our online guests. Do any of you have questions?
Would you mind saying your email address for us one more time?
Yes, it's Harrington, Harrington, and then the letter S, at sbcc.edu.
Thank you.
You can look up the prezi.com. The notes, the more detailed notes with citations, links to the articles that I might have found some of this information on, links to some interesting infographics also that just tell you a little bit of more statistics about the use of social media sites are all listed on the social media in the classroom document that's been shared in the COI agenda folder, committee folder.
Yeah, and if you're not currently a member of that drive, that folder, let me know if you would like to be, and I'll add you to that so you can see that document.
That was
Janet Robertson.
Excuse me?
Yes.
How do we let someone know? Who is the person who said, let me know if you want to be added to that classroom? I can't tell. Who said that?
Hi, it's Janet Robertson, and my email is robertso@sbcc.edu. That's ROBERTSO @sbcc.edu. And this year I'm co-chairing the COI committee virtually, so it's kind of exciting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then Ellen had a comment too.
I just wanted to add something too. You had mentioned, I think, in talking about Twitter, using their readings and sharing links to readings. And I just wanted to put a plug in for the library and all of our subscription resources that are not available for free online. That we can, if you don't already know how to do it, we can show you how to find the permanent link to an individual article that will have embedded into it the proxy server that asks the students to log in with their pipeline information. So that's something that could also be shared on any of these platforms too, linked readings.
The library is very helpful for online technologies and accessing information.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Shelby. And this will be also, I'll provide this presentation. It's being recorded. And I'm not sure exactly, I'll probably post it on the drive, but we could also send it to all faculty, or at least those that were here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.